Hello, my dear students. Welcome to this lecture. Uh, Today we are going to study some new lesson in our course, Writing 1. Our lesson today will be about punctuation rules. When we talk about punctuation rules, here we are talking about some different types of marks that used to organize our writing. In this lecture, inshallah, we're going to study uh, the end punctuations, which include period, question mark, writing 1. Our lesson today will be about punctuation rules. When we talk about punctuation rules, here we are talking about some different types of marks that used to organize our writing. In this lecture, inshallah, we're going to study the end punctuations, which include period, question mark, and also exclamation point. And we'll study also the comma and apostrophe, colon, semicolon, and quotation marks. So let's start our lesson. We'll start first with the end punctuation. Here we have the period and question mark and also exclamation mark or exclamation point. The first point is about the period. We call it also as full stop. Here we use a period when we end a statement. So when we end any type of statements, here we use this point or this period. Okay, so this mark is known as a period and it is used at the end of the statement. So when you want to end your statement, use this, okay, or this mark. The second type is a question mark, and this is the question mark. Use a question mark when you ask a question. So at the end of a question, you should write or should make this mark. Okay? So use this mark at the end of the question when you ask a question. Do you like cookies? So the final mark, okay, is the question mark. So it tells us that we have question statement. When we end the statements, okay, in general we use what? Full stop or period. And in question we use question mark. The third end punctuation is exclamation point. And this is the exclamation mark or exclamation point. Okay? It is not used in formal writing. Okay? Mostly we use period instead of it. In what? In formal writing. Use exclamation point when you have an excited or emotionally charged statement like, I absolutely love cookies. I absolutely love cookies. So at the end of such type of exclamatory statement, we use the exclamation mark or exclamation point. So it is used at the end of exclamatory statements. Okay. So at the end punctuation, we have three types. The first one is a period or full stop. It's used at the end. Also, we use the question mark at the end of the question or interrogative sentence. And we use the exclamation mark or exclamation point at the end of the exclamatory sentence. Okay. Another type of the punctuations is comma. Okay. So here we have commas. Okay. And this is the shape of what? Of comma. Okay. You'll find it in the line. Okay. When you write, you make it at the line. Okay. While a period ends a sentence, a comma indicates smaller break or even pause. Pause. Okay. Think of what? The period make long break or show what long break. But comma indicates smaller break. Okay. So when we stop, okay, here when you find the period, we'll make some long stop, okay, some way. But when we find a comma, okay, here we'll make small break, okay, or small stop with. Some writers think of a comma as a soft pause, a punctuation mark that separates words, clauses, or ideas within a sentence. Okay? Always use comma to separate a city and state. Here we have what? Some comma that used in this example when you say Bin Jawad, Libya. Here Bin Jawad is the name of a city and Libya is a state or the country. So when you want to separate them, when you want to separate a city and a state, use comma. This is a comma is used between them. Bin Jawad, comma, Libya. Okay. Or even you can say Raslanov, Libya. Okay. Sirte, Libya. Okay. Or even you can think of some other, you can say even Cairo, Egypt. Okay. Khartoum, Sudan. Okay. So when you want to separate city and state, use comma between them. Okay. The date from the year. This is another usage for what? For the comma. So use a comma to separate the date from the year. So think of December 25, the date, and here the year. Okay, we think of 2009. April 15, then we use comma Then we use, yes, 2010. Also use comma to separate the greeting and closing of a letter. Okay. So you think of the formal letter, okay, or even informal letters, okay? But when you want to use greeting at the end of the greeting, okay, use comma. Yeah, so here you use comma at the end of greeting when you say, dear Ahmed, dear manager, or something like that. Okay. Think of using the comma after the greeting, dear Fulan, okay, dear head of department, okay, you can use even such type of comma at the end of the greeting. We call it at greeting. Also, at the end of what? Of closing of a letter. The closing of a letter, you say sincerely or sincerely yours, okay, or regards or something. At the end, also use this comma. So use comma at the end of what? Uh, Closing letter. Okay. So such type of words, okay, sincerely or some other words. So at the end of greeting and closing of a letter, use a comma. Okay. Of letter, okay, and you know letter means what? رسالة or خطاب. Use comma also to separate two adjectives from the same what? Class. Okay, say descriptive adjective with descriptive adjective. So you want to use them both in one phrase, separate them with what? With comma. Okay, even some other type of what? Adjective, but from the same class. You know, here we have some different, yes, classifications for what? For adjectives. Okay. So when you want to use two of the adjectives from the same class, use comma between them. So use comma to separate adjective or two adjectives that tell about the same noun. So here, for example, Jamal is a clever, smart boy. Jamal is a clever, smart boy. So he will separate clever and smart, okay, with what? With a comma. Both of them used for the same noun. Okay. So he separate an adjective from another when the adjectives or the two adjectives are from the same class. Okay. And they are used with the same noun. Okay. So separate them with what? With a comma. Use a comma between them. Okay. Also use a comma between three or more items in a series or a list. For example, Yahya likes pizza, pizza, spaghetti, and lasagna. Yahya likes pizza, spaghetti, and lasagna. So here we have three items. So when you have more than two items, let's say three items and more, or even or more, okay, in a list or series, use comma to separate them. Okay. So here we have three items: pizza, spaghetti, and also lasagna. So he will separate the first and the second, and also the third, okay, with what? With a comma. You can say we must use comma between the first and the second, and it's optional to use it before and. It is optional to use a comma before and. If you want to use it, okay, use it before and or even leave it. So you can say Yahya likes pizza, comma, spaghetti, comma, and lasagna, or even you can say Yahya, we can write it in this way, Yahya likes pizza, spaghetti, and lasagna without, yes, using this mark. Okay, you know, here when you use punctuation, we use them just writing. Okay, when we write, okay, you know, when we talk, okay, we have some type of movement, some type of, yes, uh, gestures or something like that. Okay, can help the others to understand our statements or our ideas. But in writing, we should use such type of punctuation, such type of uh, markers in order to help even the reader just to understand our points and where to stop, okay, to think and where to, is it long or even soft, okay, or even short or long or something. Also use comma between the words spoken by someone and the rest of the sentence. So that appear when we say, well, okay, and then you want to add something, okay, you can use comma. I know, yes, he left to Egypt. I know, okay, you can say, or and then you can mention something. So here between the words spoken by someone and the rest of the sentence. So here, I know, I know. Yes, you can use comma after. Okay, answered Nawal. So here, as you tell something, okay, or a story or something like that. I know, comma, answered Nawal. Also use comma after a short introductory phrase. Use comma after a short introductory phrase. Here we call it as adverbial, okay, let's say general, okay, after adverbial, when we start our sentence with such type of introductory phrase. After all that, candy. After all that, candy. So think of what? The comma used after such type of introductory phrase. Okay. You know, it's a prepositional phrase that used as adverbial in this sentence. So when we use such type of adverbials or prepositional phrases in the first part of the sentence, okay, as initial in the sentence, here we use comma after it, okay, before we use the rest of, uh, yes, the words, okay, or let's say phrases of the sentence. So after all the candy, so if you think of using comma here, nobody was hungry for cake. Okay, so you think of comma used to separate, yeah, or even to use afterward a short introductory phrase, as you see in such type of. Okay. So we have also some other words, second or secondly, you can use comma, then you can say first. The first question was, yeah, first question, okay, we think of what about so and so, comma, okay, you can say something, okay, or even you can say in the beginning, okay, so here you can use comma. So think of such type of introductory phrase, okay. So here for such type of form, okay, we use comma to show a pause, okay, pause, which means what? Some stop. Uh, we said that the comma used in the line, okay. So here find it, yes, down, okay. But we have some other form, okay, or some other punctuation that use in writing, which higher, yes, words, okay, that we use, okay. So we think of apostrophes. Think of apostrophe, okay, apostrophe is used to indicate position or the omission of letters. You think of possess from possess, yeah, and here from omit. So to indicate that there is a position, yes, relationship or omission, here add an apostrophe when there is one owner, okay, or one owner, add apostrophe first and then add an S. And here you remember the S of possessive, the possessive S. Okay, when we use apostrophe and S, it's used for position, yes. Yeah. So we think of what? Uh, the cat's dish is empty. When you say the cat's dish is empty, you think of this thing is on for one owner. The owner is the cat. So he will say the cat's dish, the girl bag, the girl's bag. Okay. That means it's a bag of the girl, the cat's dish, the dish of the cat. Okay, so we think of the owner. Okay, will follow. Okay, with such type of what? S that we call it as possessive, possessive S, possessive S. Okay, so here we use first apostrophe and then we add S. So here we call it as possessive, okay, possessive S. Okay. Also add apostrophe when there is more than one owner. When there is more than one owner. In this case, add S first and then an apostrophe. So here we will see that the apostrophe comes after S because here we are talking about plural, okay, plural form. Here the word cat or cats, cats plural, okay? And here we think of what? Cats as singular. Okay? The cat's dish, that means it's a dish for one cat, or owned by one cat. But here when you say all of the cats' dishes were empty, you are talking about cats' dishes. And the apostrophe followed what? S. That means here we are talking about plural cats, not just one cat. So here we are talking about what? Dishes for what? For cats, not for one cat here. Here we said a dish for cat, one cat. But here we have cats, dishes for cats. Okay, so for this case, we use apostrophe after S to show the reader that, okay, we write something, okay, we write some statement. So here we use it, or we use this apostrophe after S to show the reader that the word here, or the noun here is plural, not singular. And here we use the apostrophe before S to show the reader that this cat is only one. Okay, it's a singular, not plural. Okay? Add an apostrophe when you put two words together to make a contraction. You know, in contraction, we make some type of shortening for words or for one word, okay, or something like that. When we join words together, okay, here we omit some, we omit, okay, some letter. Okay, so he will call it that a case of omission. Okay, we said that apostrophe used for omission and position. So when you put two words together to make contraction, use apostrophe or an apostrophe. As when you say he is, he is, he and is. Okay, we remove the vowel I and we use instead of it this mark to say that there is some omitted letter here. Okay, some omitted vowel. Now he is on the table. Okay, so we think of yes, the former, even it's. Okay, he is, it's. Okay, or even there. Okay, here and there we have they and are. Okay, two words. We combine them together. Okay, and we use what a contraction form. We omit are. Of sorry, we omit a from are, okay, and we use instead of it the apostrophe. Similarly, in he is here, he and is, we join them together to the form his. His is a contraction. We omit I and we use he plus apostrophe s. Okay? He is on the table. Okay. Another punctuation mark known as what? Colon. Yes, colon. Colon or colons, and this is the shape of it. Okay, colon. Okay, let's say two large dots that align what? Vertical. Yeah. We think of a colon precedes an explanation, a list, or a quoted sentence. We say a quoted sentence مقتبسة. جملة مقتبسة. We think of a colon precedes an explanation, okay, or a list, or a quoted sentence. And it is also used between hours and minutes in time. Okay, so it's also used between hours and minutes in time. What's the time now? Okay, you can think of, let's say 10:30 or something like that. Think of the mark or the punctuation mark that used between hours and minutes in time. Okay, we can say is what? Is this mark that known as colon. So add a colon after the salutation of a business letter. Okay, so he would think of dear Mr. Adam, dear Mr. Adam. So think of 2 points. Okay, dear Mr. Adam. Okay, or even between numerals indicating time. Okay, these are the numbers. Okay, meet me at the park at 12:35. Between the hours and minutes, okay, we use 2 points, okay, which we call them as colons. So here we use colon to, yes, we use colon between what? Between hours and minutes. Add colon to introduce a list. So here also we use a colon, the list, okay, when we want to introduce a list. To separate list, we use commas, as you see, but when we want to introduce a list, that means before we start the list, we can use what? The colon. Please bring me the following items to class. So we use colon, okay, writing, pencil, comma, paper, comma, eraser, comma, and folder. Okay, so here we use the colon to introduce all of these things. Okay, before we start them, okay, we use to, yeah, yes, the two dots. Okay, so the colon. Okay, so we call this mark as colon. Use he plus apostrophe s. Okay, he is on the table. Okay. Another punctuation mark known as what? Colon. Yes, colon. Colon or colons, and this is the shape of it. Okay, colon. Okay, let's say two large dots that align what? Vertical. Yeah. Think of a colon precedes an explanation, a list, or a quoted sentence. Say a quoted sentence مقتبسة. جملة مقتبسة. We think of a colon precedes an explanation, okay, or a list, or a quoted sentence. And it is also used between hours and minutes in time. Okay, so it's also used between hours and minutes in time. What's the time now? Okay, you can think of, let's say, 10:30 or something like that. Think of the mark or the punctuation mark that used between hours and minutes in time. Okay, we can say is what? Is this mark that known as colon. So add a colon after the salutation of a business letter. Okay, so he would think of dear Mr. Adam, dear Mr. Adam. So think of 2 points. Okay, dear Mr. Adam. Okay, or even between numerals indicating time. Okay, these are the numbers. Okay, meet me at the park at 12:35. Between the hours and minutes, okay, we use 2 points, okay, which we call them as colons. So here we use colon to, yes, we use colon between what? Between hours and minutes. Add colon to introduce a list. So here also we use a colon in the list, okay, when we want to introduce a list. To separate list, we use commas, as you see, but when we want to introduce a list, that means before we start the list, we can use what? The colon. Please bring me the following items to class. So we use colon, okay, writing, pencil, comma, paper, comma, eraser, comma, and folder. Okay, so here we use the colon to introduce all of these things. Okay, before we start them, okay, we use to, yeah, yes, the two dots. Okay, so the colon. Okay, so we call this mark as colon. Two related independent clauses in place of a comma. So instead of a comma, you can use what? This form, okay? And a coordinating conjunction and, but, or, no, for, so, and yet, okay? So here there is 2 points. The first one, use the colon to join two related independent clauses, okay, as we said, in place of a comma, okay, with some type of forms, okay, when you say yes, so, okay, or even when I want to use so, or even some other type of words, okay, nevertheless, okay, or something like that. We can use yes, we can use the semicolon before, yeah, the words. But in some other case, with a coordinating conjunction, we can use it to replace them, okay, in the place, okay, okay, of the forms, okay. Here we can think of this form, okay, here. John finished all his homework, but Kathleen did not finish hers. So we think of finish hers. Here we think of what? But. Okay. But is used here between two clauses. John finished all his homework. The other sentence is Kathleen did not finish hers. Okay, so we think of but used between them. John finished all his homework, but Kathleen did not finish hers. Here, we cannot, in that second sentence, we said, or even we wrote, John finished all his homework, then we use semicolon. Then Kathleen did not finish hers. So here we use a semicolon instead of what? Of but. And similarly, we can think of the other coordinating conjunction, okay? So we can replace them with what? With semicolon, okay? So here we removed but and we use this. And both of them are correct, okay? In case you use it in this way or even use this one, okay? It's also allowed in what? Writing. Okay, use a semicolon to replace a comma when you use a coordinating conjunction to link independent clauses that already contain commas. Here, for example, my dog is sick. She won't eat, run around, or jump, nor will she go for a walk with me. So here, think of what? The dog, okay? Said, my dog is sick. She won't or she will not eat, run around, or jump, nor will she go for what? For a walk with me. So he would think of the form here. We can say the first form is incorrect. Okay, it seems even wrong in some way. And here there is a lot of commas. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 3 commas. Okay, are used. Okay, and the correct form of writing will include what? Semicolon. For example, here, or even to make some correction for what? So for the previous sentence, my dog is sick. She will not eat, run around, or jump. Then we use semicolon here. Nor will she go for a walk with me. So here we think of semicolon use here. Okay, so here we use a semicolon to replace a comma. Okay, so instead of comma, we replace comma with what? Semicolon. Okay, so that means to separate here. We use it to separate. Okay, when you use a coordinating conjunction to link independent clauses that already contain commas. Okay, so here we have, as you see, more than one comma, okay, as used, yes, to divide, okay, even, yes, the clauses, okay, or some other clauses. Okay, you think of she will not eat, this is the first one. Then she run around and she jump, okay, and she will, yes, we think of what? We think of the form here, okay, and he will think of the semicolon is used instead of what? Of the comma, okay, because there is, yes, many commas are used, okay, in the sentence. So before the last one, okay, we use what, or prefer to use what? Semicolon instead of what? Of comma. The last part, or the last mark that we will study this lesson is the quotation marks. The quotation marks. Here we think of the quotation marks are these two marks, okay? Similar to two what? Forms, okay, we call them also as two inverted commas. Two inverted commas, we call them as two inverted commas. Here we use quotation marks before and after words that are spoken by someone. For example, I love to read chapter books, or I love to read, let's say, Quran, okay, it's better. Said Ahmed, okay, we think of the form, I love to read Quran, okay, so we think of these words said by someone, okay, so we think of what? Before and after words, before and after words that is spoken by someone. So I love to read Quran, said Umran. We think of the words that taken from someone, okay, we call it as quotation, okay, we call them as quotation marks, or the two inverted commas that use in quotation. So you can think of these words, okay. We say in Arabic, okay, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, okay, we think of the words that said by him, okay, praise and peace be upon him, okay, we think of such type of commas, okay, can include, okay, yes, the quotation, okay, or even the word that's said by him. Use quotation marks around words that are being discussed or emphasized. Use quotation marks around words again, another usage, okay, for quotation marks, or the two inverted commas, around words that are being discussed or emphasized. Around the words that are being discussed or emphasized. A man-made lake is called a reservoir. Reservoir. Think of reservoir here. Yeah. It involved between what? Two inverted commas. Okay. So around around the word, okay, we'll find the two inverted commas. Yes, that are being discussed or emphasized before here. So this is the meaning of reservoir. Reservoir. Yeah. A man-made lake. بحيرة صناعية or something like that. Okay. A man-made lake. Okay. Lake. Reservoir. Another usage, okay, let's say the third usage for quotation marks Okay, we can say use quotation marks, yeah, for what? Newspaper articles. So for newspaper articles, you can use the two inverted commas, or even the titles of poems, stories, songs, novels, short stories, etc. So for the titles of poems or stories or novels or songs, use the two inverted commas. So here we have, for example, Hot and Cold in the name of, yeah, yes, of a title by Katy Perry. Okay, he would think of the title is included between two inverted commas. Okay, so between two inverted commas, okay, here we should make what? The titles of poems or songs or even short stories or even the newspaper articles. There is some book, okay, that's written by Chinua Achebe. Things fall apart. Things fall apart. Okay, you can make it between two inverted commas. Okay, when you talk about things fall apart for yes, or by what? By Chinua Achebe. Things fall apart. Okay, between two inverted commas. Then you can write by Chinua Achebe, and here we can think of the other titles, okay, of books, okay, with their writers, okay, you can put them, okay, between two what? Inverted commas, as you see in this example. Okay, that's all about lecture for today. Our lesson was about punctuation marks. Inshallah, see you next time in some other lesson, inshallah. Goodbye.